Today we have another episode of The Salon, and our guest today is David Rahimi, my lovely ex-husband, and my other co-host is Leora, our first-born child. And it is a real pleasure to me to interview David because he's very, very knowledgeable about the history of Israel. I would like him to introduce first. He is born in Persia, what is now Iran. David came as a 4-year-old boy to Israel, and many, many other Jews from Arab countries were expelled in that time since 1948, the establishment of the reinstating of Israel. And he grew up there, went into the army, the IDF, for 5 years, became a lieutenant, and now he is a retired lieutenant. After that, he came to the Netherlands, did an MBA in Erasmus University in Rotterdam, and he had many, many businesses in his life. He has very diversity of talents, and the last few years, David lived in Israel, right? And he then pursued his passion of history. He is very knowledgeable about that, the history of the country, and became an Israeli tour guide. And today we will talk about the development of Jerusalem, how it came to fruition, why it has been destroyed, to what Jerusalem is today. And it has a rich history. So there we go, David. Tell us about the beginning of the city. What happened? Who lived there? And how did it develop?
1600 years, where no Muslim claim could be on the territory between the river to the sea. There have been Canaanite tribes on the mountains of Judea and Samaria. One of the Canaanites...
Logistically, that's very near Jerusalem.
Yeah, those are the Judeans.
One of the Canaanites tribes, which were called Jebusites, they had Jerusalem. Now the Jews are coming from Egypt, and they cross the river, the Jordan River. And King David is practically conquering Jerusalem and taking it from the hands of the Jebusites. He builds Jerusalem, and he had a lot of conflicts with the Canaanite tribes which are here.
Mm-hmm.
The conflicts are on water resources and on land. Now, we are in an area which is very, very dry. And if you are not next to water or fertile land, then you cannot exist. Simple. No water, no land, no security. They will wipe you away. So the Jews are coming, taking over Jerusalem.
What year is that?
And right after David, King Solomon is building the first temple.
What year is that, more or less, David?
We are talking about the year that King Solomon is taking over is about 970 before Christ. Okay? There is no talk about Palestinians. Palestinians are not here. Arabs are not here. There are Canaanites. And there are problems between tribes. The Jews, they want to settle down with their 12 tribes. And sometimes they have issues with their neighbors. The Jews are believing in one God. The others are believing in more than one God. And there are issues. The first temple is being built by the son of David. His name is Solomon. There are very specific rules stated in the Bible how to build the temple. And the temple is being built by King Solomon. King Solomon is widening the influence that he has to the north, to the east, to the south. And he has also a harbor south of Eilat of today. And he has contacts to Tzor and Sidon, which is in the north of Israel, whatever is Lebanon now. And he has a lot of contacts with a lot of rulers around. The first temple is being destroyed by the Babylonians in the year 586, after a siege of 2 years almost. And then the Jews are being taken by force by the Babylonians, and they are being forced direction Iraq of today.
Hmm.
Not all of them, a lot of them. And for a duration of about 60 years, they are staying in Babylon. The Babylonians.
Were they made slaves, David?
Excuse me?
Were they made slaves? Were they like slaves, or what did they just wear there?
They are between the two rivers of Prat and Achidekel. This is how we call it in Hebrew. And these are the main rivers of Mesopotamia. Now, the Assyrians were the enemies of the Babylonians, so they took them over. And the Babylonians are in troubles with the Persians, and they took them over. And then, during the time that the temple is destroyed, the first temple is destroyed, we are coming to a political change, and the ruler of Persia, which his name is Koresh in Hebrew, Koresh is telling them, please return back. You are allowed to build your own temple. The condition is that you will pay taxes to me. Okay? So for the Jews, it was a very good proposition. The majority of them are returning back. And these are in the days of Ezra and Nehemiah, and they're building the second temple.
So who destroyed the first temple?
Again, there are no talks about Palestinians, Arabs, not in this area.
Who destroyed the first temple? Because if the Jews left Jerusalem already at the time, they were Mesopotamia, why would they destroy the temple?
They wanted to punish the Jews. There was a king with a name, which his name was Tzidkiyahu, and the king before him was his brother. So they decided not to pay taxes to Babylon.
So the Babylonians conquered Jerusalem, and that's why.
And they conquered Jerusalem. There was a huge siege. A lot of people lost their life. There was a situation that there was no food and water, and they entered Jerusalem through the north gate, and they took it over. And then came another general, which was the general of Nebuchadnezzar, a general of him, and this very general took decision to expel the majority of the Jews direction Babylon. Okay?
Mhm.
Now, 65 years are passing, the Persians are taking over Babylon, and then the Jews are allowed to return back. They are returning back, not all of them. Most probably, my family is a family which was expelled to Mesopotamia. Okay? It could be very much that my family did not return back. It could be. And they remained there for the last 2,600 years, give and take. And there are, up to this very moment, 30,000 Jews in Iran.
They cannot get out, right?
Okay?
They have to leave everything behind if they want to get out.
There are, up to this very moment, 30,000 Jews in Iran. If you go to Iran, to Tehran, to Shiraz, to other cities, you will find there communities of Jews. Okay? We are coming to a situation that there is a new temple, simple temple. It is not so nice as like Solomon was building. Arab tribes haven't been here at that time whatsoever. They have nothing to do with this area. Arab tribes have been on the east side of the Jordan River. Up to that moment, they did not come west side of the Jordan River or conquered it. So any fairy tale about we are the Palestinians and we are the Canaanites or we are the descendants of the Canaanites, this is a very, very poor proven, it is a empty claim. Now, if you're coming with a claim that something belongs to us, you should come with a book, at least. You should come with any evidence with something written on stone, with a coin. There is nothing. 0.00000. There is nothing. Now, one of the claims that they have is that the Jews came as a colonial movement I would like to ask, 70% of the Jews in Israel are from Oriental or Mizrahi Jews. I mean, I came from Persia. There have been from Iraq, from Yemen, from Syria, from Kurdistan, from Turkey, from Ethiopia, from Egypt. These are not from colonial, ex-colonial. So also this claim that we came because of a colonial movement, there is a shady element into it. Though it is true that Jews have been also in Ukraine and Russia and East Europe, and they were in a situation where they were hurted by different rulers that didn't like them. And doesn't matter the reason. And there have been pogroms, and they needed to flee.
Yeah.
Now, the British happened to see that they could use for their reasoning the Jews that are at that moment here in, so to say, Palestine. And they gave them, they wanted to have them fulfill different type of interests that they had.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to develop this place, but to their needs. And their needs was very simple. In the area of Mesopotamia of those days, they found oil, and there was a pipeline that they put under the ground. And this pipeline goes to Haifa from Iraq to Haifa. And it was easy for them to communicate with the Jews. And to tell you another secret, so to say, in Mark Twain is coming here in the mid 1900s, and he does not see much here. He is talking about a desolate country with no trees, hardly water, no place that people could be existing here. And the numbers of people that have been living here was really redundant. We are talking about 120,000 people. In the days of Mark Twain, 120 to 170,000, which is next to nothing. Mark Twain is in, I think that around the year 1853, he is writing a diary about his travels here. It is true, and by the names of the people that came from Muslim countries to work here, that through their name you could see that they are coming from which part of Syria, or which part of Iraq, or which part of Jordan, or which part of Egypt.
You mean the Palestinians, a lot of Palestinian last names?
Those ones that are calling themselves Palestinians, they came to work here. Why?
In the 1800s, yeah.
The Turkish have been building few railways.
The Mamelukes, right?
And the British needed them for labor. But to say that there was here an empire or a state, this is absolute. It is not there. They cannot prove nothing. Jews have been here. It is true. There have been here, the majority of the people at that time, I'm talking about the years where Mark Twain have been here, the majority were Muslims. And the Egyptians have been controlling for about 10 years, around the year 1830. They have been controlling this area. And in order to influence this area, they moved some Egyptian falahis, they moved them here. They forced them to come here, or they encouraged them to come here. Later on, the Ottomans took over the place. The Ottomans had years that they were stronger and years that they were not strong at all. And people have been, they try to conquer area. So the Egyptians have been, at that moment, this very ruler took over the area, and he put some Falahi, people that are plowing the land from the area of the Nile. And through their names, you could not see from where they came.
Yeah, interesting.
So the claims that they have, there's no substance to it. Jews have been here all the time, not in huge numbers, but slowly, they realize that they have no choice. The Christians are hurting them in Europe, East and West. The Muslims are hurting them. And to say that there was a harmony between the Jews and the Muslims, it is not true. It is absolutely not true. There have been years that the Jews had a lot of troubles from different clerks, also in Iran, also in Iraq, also in North Africa. Came a local clerk and he took decisions to and interpreted all kind of verses from the Quran, and the ones that had to suffer were the Jews. And the Jews happened to see that they do not have security. I'll give you one example from my own family. Women or girls of 12 years old, they had to be hidden in houses. Why? Because if they were 12 and a half, they were afraid that they would be kidnapped and they would vanish. There was no police. There was with nobody to talk. They would rape them. And once they rape them, go find them in another city. So the story of we are the Muslims and we are so nice and cute to the Jews, one should take the taste of salt and put it very well on his tongue.
David, can we go back to what happened in Jerusalem, right? The first and this temple was destroyed, and then the second temple was rebuilt. What happened? What year was that? And when was it destroyed? And who destroyed it?
The second one.
The second one.
The second temple was very simple temple.
Mm-hmm.
And Ezra and Nehemiah are building it. They are coming from another country, from Babylon. They are coming here, devastated, and they're building a very simple temple. And then there are Israel is already split. Israel, the nation of Israel, is split to Judea and to the 10 tribes. So the 10 tribes are in the area of Shomron, and there are 2 tribes in the area of Jerusalem. And then happens the following thing. Each ruler of Israel, the North Kingdom, or Judea, they have political issues with the neighbors around. If it is not rulers from the north, from the northeast. If these are not rulers from the south, these are rulers that are coming and going, and they would like to have influence in this area. Why? Because Israel is kind of a spot. It is a bridge between Asia and Africa, and between Africa and Europe. If you want to go from one place to another place, you will have to pass here. So along many years, many generations, different empires are coming here. The Greek, the Romans, the Byzantines, the Arabs, the Christians are coming here for about 200 years. Later on, for 400 years, the Ottomans are here. Before the Ottomans, there are also the Mamluks. After the Ottomans are coming the British. So a lot of people from different reasons, those empires would like to conquer this area. About the second temple, before the destruction of the second temple, in the year 63, minus 63, before Christ, the Romans are, they would like to have influence in the East, and they wanted to have kind of a puppet king, which will collect for them taxes, of course. And they had legions in Syria, they had legions in the area wherever Israel is now. And to defend the east flank of their empire, they had to put here some military presence. And Herod, the father of Herod, was not a Jew. He was converting to be a Jew. And then there is a situation where the Jews didn't want him because he was not from the seed of David, but he was powerful enough to control the area and collect taxes for the Romans. So the deal was the following. me, Herod, I will be the king of the Jews. I will collect taxes and I will share it with Rome. And the Jews are rebelling against that, also because of the fact that they didn't like Herod, and also because of the fact that the Jewish traditions and being a Jew is absolutely the opposite picture of a Jew. We have one God, they have more than one, and it is an issue for the Jews. And the Romans are trying to enforce their religion in this area, not with success, sometimes more success, sometimes less success. And the Jews are rebelling. And there are 7 fractions, different fractions between the Jews. They are not unified. The aristocrats, which are the priestess, they do not like so much the simple people. And there is a huge tension between the 7 fractions which are there. Some of them are collaborating with the Romans, some of them are against the Romans. And you should understand one thing. The Romans have been taking over Greece, the Greek Empire. So the influence, the religious influence that was there, it came to a point where the Jews, they had to, they took over some of the Greek, I will not say traditions, but they were influenced from the situation, the political situation that was around. And then the Romans are coming, and between the Romans and the Greek, there was a dynasty of the Hashmonaim, and there have been issues. There have been issues between the Jews that wanted to have their own destiny in their hands. And the empires that were stronger than the Jews. In the year 70, Jerusalem is being, there is destruction of Jerusalem. And it is not happening in one day. In the year 65, there is a big rebellion against the Romans. And the Romans are coming with their legions, and they are destroying all of the cities that they can. They are killing tens of thousands of people. There is a siege on Jerusalem, and they take over Jerusalem. And once they take over Jerusalem, also the temple is being destroyed. And as a trophy, Titus, which is at that moment the general, he takes all of the silver, gold, all of the things which are in the temple, and in order to show that he was powerful, he has to parade in Roma, and he shows it to the Roman emperor, which later gives him more opportunities to be not only the ruler of this section of the empire, he is getting more chances, political chances further. Again, at that time, any claim about Muslims, Arabs, Palestinians is not existing.
David, can you tell us about what happened after the destruction in 70s, and when was the mosque built on top of the temple? When did that start? And also, how far is the temple now visible? Because they have done so much archaeological work, right? It looks phenomenal if you're there with the tunnels and all that. Can you tell a bit about the line, how that developed, and how and exactly on what part the mosque is built?
Okay. Muhammad is born around the year 570. Okay?
Yeah.
And he is dead in 632.
Mm-hmm.
And he has influence at that time. By the way, he was busy as a warlord to create a lot of havoc in the area of Mecca and Medina. We are talking about 65 to 72 major conflicts that he has between himself and the Jews, between himself and the other tribes that are in Saudi Arabia. In the year 630, if you would come to the Temple Mount, you would see that there is a structure there. There was a structure which was a Byzantine church.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that one.
The Muslims are conquering the Temple Mount in the year 638. Okay? This structure that the Byzantine have been building, you should take in consideration that the Byzantines have been moving from worshipping a lot of gods to worshipping one God once their Messiah is Jesus. Around the year 323, 324, slowly, the Byzantines are taking over on their shoulders the will and the need to be Christians. And along 300 years, they are building different churches in places where they believe that Jesus is telling his story. One of those places is the Temple Mount.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a structure there with 8 corners. And the Muslims are coming there, and they are coming there at the year 638, and they are building a spot. They are building also, they are taking over the Byzantine element which is there, and they are building their they are turning it to a place of worship. Okay, so there is a place of worship wherever now is Al-Aqsa, and there is another place of worship which they believe that the Burak, it is kind of a horse which takes Muhammad to heaven. Okay, now there are structures that are one structure they build. It was built from wood, and there is another structure which is with 8 corners, and this was a place of worship for the Byzantines, and they take it over. Now, from that moment, one should ask himself, okay, Muhammad was dying 6 years before, and the Quran was there? No, the Quran was not there yet. The Quran is coming to, the Quran that we know is coming to the world about 200 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So there are rulers which are family members related to him, and these people have a religion of one God. But the Quran that you know today
Mm-hmm.
is not yet the book that we know. This book has narratives that different kind of clerks put their input into it. I'm simplifying a lot of things here in order to make sure that whoever sees this movie would have another picture of the reality. Again, at that time, to claim that there are Palestinians involved, excuse me, there are Arabs coming from Saudi Arabia. They took over Baghdad, they are taking over Syria, and they are coming and spreading. And during those times that they are spreading, they go to Egypt, North Africa, they conquer Spain and South France, and they are also conquering Turkey, and they are conquering Greece of today, and Austria, and also wherever Yugoslavia was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, yes, it is another movement. They are very successful, and during the time that they are successful, they are also killing about 10 million people that didn't want to be Muslim. It was not pleasant to be not Muslim at that time in this area. Also today, it's not so simple. Or
What year did you say they were conquering those lands and killing those that they don't want to convert? Like around what year was that?
I would like to give you exact year that they took Spain, and I would like to give you exact year that they took Austria. It didn't happen in one day, but allow me a second. I'll check it and I'll give you an answer. It took time, but they were very successful. And once I do successful, they are coming with a very how should I say it in a soft way? If you would not do their will, they will detach your head from your shoulders. This is the softest I could make it.
Mhm.
And this is the way that they had a success. During this success, millions of people are losing their life.
David, what year did they decide to start building the mosque? How did that develop on the ruins?
Like how soon after the destruction of the second temple did they start building on top?
The structure of Al-Aqsa, it was in the beginning a wooden structure. It went in flames. There have been few earthquakes there. They had to rebuild it, and they reshaped it. They enhanced it. They widened it. It was not in one. It was not in the beginning. It was from wood.
Mhm.
And what shall I say? If you will allow me 2 minutes, I can give you exact days and so on. But it did not happen in one night. It was a process. And by the way, once they are conquering Jerusalem, we are talking about 3 big dynasties that are coming here. The Ayyubis are here, and there are other dynasties that are coming. Dynasties from Baghdad, dynasties, another dynasty from Syria, another dynasties later coming from Egypt, and they have between themselves also a lot of frictions. They are Muslims, but they have a lot of frictions with each other, and it is taking a lot of years also. There are Ayyubis, there are Abbasis, there are Mamluks. And then in the year 1099, the Crusaders are coming. And the Crusaders are here for about 198 years. And during this time, they have a lot of frictions with the Muslim population. At that time, the dynasties from Egypt are much more stronger. And there is a gentleman, Salah ad-Din, and in 4th of July, in the year 1187, he practically breaks the hegemony of the Christians in this place. There are here and there enclaves of Christians. They are coming with agreements to be allowed to get to Jerusalem, but not as the rulers, but as the visitors. But they still have some places after the year 1187 along the coast, especially in Akko, in Atlit, and also in other places. But again, whoever tries to link between Salah ad-Din and the Palestinians, there is nothing in the history which... There are no Palestinians, not in my opinion, in the opinion of coming with true devastating evidence till the year 1964, that the whole movement of liberating Palestine by force, and we are all Palestinians. There are different tribes here, and the tribes of Nablus will even not marry the people of Hebron, and the people of Jenin have issues with the people of Tulkarem. To say that there is here a Palestinian nation, it is very, very.
Basically, the tribal people, the Arab tribal people that were living in that
They are, in my opinion, through the evidence that I see, I read, they are up to this very moment a tribal society, which is aggregated around huge families that have a common interest.
Can we go back to the Jerusalem and the mosque when it was built, and how that is that people realize that it's built on top of the temple? Can you be more visual about that? So David, tell us more about how it developed with the mosque that was built on top of the temple ruins, please.
The Ayyubis are conquering Jerusalem, and this is the year 638, 6 years after the death of the Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah.
And you should understand that Jerusalem, the walls of Jerusalem are destroyed. The temple is not existing there. Jews are a very, very weak people at that time. They are spread in the whole universe, and there is a new religion which is taking over, and they are spreading in a very powerful way. So the Ayyubis are a dynasty that at that moment are already conquering the areas of Syria, Baghdad, of course, Saudi Arabia is in their hand, Lebanon, and they are taking over whatever is now Israel. Now, in the year 691, for about 25, 26 years, they are building Al-Aqsa Mosque. It takes so long because of different reasons, also different political reasons. And once they build it, it is not in the shape and the form that it has now. There is a process there, and also there is a fire there. They have to rebuild it, but you could say that between the year 691 and 717, this mosque is there. No doubt about it. It is there. Now, let's talk about the Rock of the Dome. There was before a shrine for Jupiter in the days of the Romans. Later on, the Byzantines are building on it a 8-corner structure. And in the year 691, the Muslims are building they are taking the shape and they are building on it. And of course, later on, they are beautifying it, making it more massive, covering it with gold. Just don't forget that there are earthquakes and there is the issue of the elements, so they have to build it a few times. I don't want to go into details, but in the year 691, both buildings are being built. And I can imagine myself at that time for the Jews, first they have the temple of Jupiter, and they are sacrificing their animals, which Jews are not allowed to sacrifice. It is kind of a feeling for the Jews that humiliation. Then the Byzantines are building there, and it is also another humiliation. And then the Muslims are coming there, putting their two structures. It is another humiliation. But what the Jews could do, next to nothing. Judaism at that time was suffering from they were in the hands of or to the mercy of whoever was there. History is there, they did it, and now we have to deal with the situation. I mean, it is there.
How does that relate to each other? There is now so much visible of the first and the second temple, right? Because it's so like all those layers have been made visible with archaeology and all that work. How does that relate with the mosque? How does that physically really relate? Is the mosque really on top of that, or a little bit left to it, or behind it? How is that relating?
Practically, where the temple was, the temple of Herod, the whole temple, all of the stones that were making the temple, they were taken off the mountain. The Romans threw them to the north, to the southwest side of the Temple Mount, and the Ayyubis took those stones and reused them for a palace that they built at the southwest end of the Temple Mount that we see it, wherever the Museum of Davidson is at that moment there.
Where the tunnels.
Now, from the temple itself, from the structure of the temple itself, nothing left, because the Romans wanted to make sure that the Jews will have nothing there, that they will have nothing to want even. Once I say nothing to want, I mean, they took the structure. They moved the whole structure away. It was a huge structure, but they took all of the stones and they flattened the area. Later on, the Romans built on it a temple for Jupiter. Then, after the year 323, the Romans are taking over Christianity, and the Byzantines have been building their structure. It was used by the early Muslims, and in the year 691, they are building a mosque out of it. This is in a nutshell. But you get the idea. There are new religions there, and to humiliate the Jews, this is what they do. Remember that till the year 1543, give and take 1 or 2 years, the walls around Jerusalem are broken. Okay, so it's not the Jerusalem that you know now. These are not the walls that you know now.
The Ottomans, those walls that you see.
The Romans destroyed the walls, the third wall, the second wall, and the first wall that was there. And you have a situation where there are new rulers, and one of the rulers that is changing the face of Jerusalem, it is the Ottoman, the great and magnificent ruler, and he's taking over in the year 1517, and about 23 years after it, he takes the decision to build a wall around Jerusalem.
Oh, yeah.
But whatever I'm telling you now, there is more into it, but you get the idea.
Yeah, so a lot of people have a hard time understanding that, and it's like Temple Mountain. It doesn't say Mosque Mountain, right? It is a very sad situation as is. So why is it, David, that today there is so much discussion about Jerusalem, who has the right here, has the right there, while it has not been mentioned once in the Quran and hundreds of times in the Bible, in the Torah, and in even the New Testament as well. Why is the claim so, as is today, that they're fighting about the same piece of Jerusalem? Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Jerusalem is being mentioned in the Torah 669 times. Jerusalem is not being mentioned in the Quran even though once. But they have a claim on Jerusalem, and this is the third important mosque for them. But you should understand the following thing. Once you have a claim and you want to prove or bring substance to the conversation, I think you should also see in 3 dimensions developments that are happening. In their eyes, in the eyes of the Muslims, there is a tiny nation, tiny nation. We are maybe 1.5 promille of the population of the Mother Earth. And they look at themselves and they say, we are 2.2 billion. They are 1.5 promille.
What is that?
No, 15 million.
15 million is next to nothing. It's not a lot. And these tiny Jews, tiny in number, how come they are so powerful? And how come that they would dictate who's going to be in Jerusalem or in Israel? It is difficult for them. And each time that you're coming to a discussion with them about possible peace, one should ask them 3 questions. Are we allowed to have a peace where absolute true peace would be there and it won't be a limited time of peace? Question number 1. Question number 2, would you allow another religion to be in this tiny spot? And the third question is, could you refrain the curses which are there in your Quran and refrain from elevating those curses on us? Could you accept somebody next to you while we will have a tiny spot? And look, geographically, we have next to nothing. Israel is in the size of New Jersey.
Yes.
And ask them really those 3 questions. And you will see that up to now, those ones that have been daring to say, yes, you are entitled to have a spot in this world. And it is stated in the Quran in few places that Bnei Israel, this is their land. But would you accept, in the name of not seeing the episodes that are happening each few years, whether it is each 7 years or each 4 years, or the devastation which is there, you see that it is going nowhere. You see that we are here to stay. You see that we are determined to have one small spot on this world. And once we wake up in the morning, we, the Jews, we would like just to survive. And whoever is next to us, we are trying to be the most cooperative in the sense of live and let live. Could you accept that we will have also a spot?
Okay, David, I would like to say the following. There is also this difficult situation. It's called the Waqf, which means that is a religious law almost decreed by Allah, that if Muslims take over a piece of land, they live there, or they live there first and then take over or conquer, that it's until the end of days, it is theirs. And that is one of the reasons that Arafat did not want to accept 97% of Judea and Samaria, which is so Jewish, if you see all the historical facts that you find there, but also called today West Bank, right? 97% has been offered in exchange for peace, but it still wasn't enough because it wasn't 100% and no counter offer, nothing. And in the way that is related to Jerusalem, the same thing. And yeah, it's very sad. And I think this is unfortunately the conclusion we need to end with today. And I thank you very much for all the information you gave us. And let's hope that things can change for the better one day. And people.
May I say one sentence?
Oh, yeah.
Look, regretfully, it's not the 97% of the Judea and Samaria that they didn't accept. They do not even accept the borders of
67.
67. In the eyes of the majority of the Muslims, up to this very moment, the existence of the Jews at any space between the river to the sea is not to be tolerated. So we are still in square one.
Which is a suicide, which is a genocide, call for a genocide from the river to the sea. Some people think that the sea is the Black Sea. You know, a lot of people scream it and don't know what it means, but it is a very terrible. They don't want, there's, like your brother said, they don't want peace. They want the whole peace, period.
Look, if you want to live in the Middle East and you have, and you are living in Europe or United States, and you think that you will solve the problems here by kind of solutions which are not related to this spot, you cannot have here peace without accepting that we will have here a space.
Yeah.
And if this fundamental issue is not resolved, it will remain the same pictures that you see in the television of Gaza, of Beirut. I mean, Beirut of 2006. Once you rape our women, and once you cut or butcher our kids, do not expect that we would be so nice. I hope that some people will think what to do with the 3 questions that I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we know the answers already, unfortunately. Okay, David, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
Let's hope for
I
better
learned
times.
a lot. I learned a lot, and it's very informative.
And basically, yeah, if you don't know the facts, then don't open your mouth. I would say open first a history book. It's the tragical thing that you live in today. And thank you so very much for contributing to that.
Yes.
Not to the cluelessness, but to the information.
Yes, it's very important to have it out there.
Take care, be safe, and
My pleasure.
And let's hope that things change for the better. And let's hope that
Thank you very much.
whatever can be returned from the hostages will happen ASAP. Thank you.
I really hope so.
Take care.
6 months, no?
Today is exactly 6
Exactly
months.
6 months. Today's April 7th.
Yeah, today is 6 months.
Everyone forgot about that. It's only about other, it's a bit sad. It's very
sad. Thank you so much. That was
my pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care.